Good morning and welcome to Hope Fellowship of Somerset. We meet every Sunday at 10 o'clock for fellowship, and we also spend time sharing with one another and loving on one another. And if you live in the St. Croix region near Somerset or Holton, New Richmond, Richmond, Hudson, and you're looking for a fellowship where the truth is preached and everybody loves one another and we work together and pray together, you'll probably enjoy us. We are a Bible-believing, Bible-preaching, Pentecostal, Jewish roots embracing fellowship. If this sounds good to you, give us a try, and because we could use some help with reaching this area for the Messiah. Today is March 7th, 2021. How about that, huh? We're already in March of 2021 in the new decade. Today, the second year into our new decade. We're going to be talking about Genesis 2 and how it reveals the creation of the universe. And the universe and all it contains was created by Elohim, part 6. We are going to talk about a whole host of things that are in this passage, and I think you're going to really enjoy what you hear. The scripture reading today is Genesis 2:8-14, so when we get started, you'll know how to follow along. But we got to do this one. Lost turnabout. Driving to a new restaurant, a woman took several wrong turns. When she finally found the right road, she asked her husband, "Why didn't you tell me I was lost?" "I thought you knew where you were going," he replied. "You always know when you're going when I'm driving." You always know where you're going when I'm driving. Sorry. Well, if I have to explain it, it probably wasn't funny, so I'm not going to explain it. Genesis 2 describes how Yahweh Elohim created Adam and Eve and made them the caretakers of his garden, earth, and universe. The prophetic picture of in Genesis 1 and 2 is that Adam was created west of Eden and then placed at the east side of it. It was on Eden's eastern side that Yahweh placed Adam and Eve to flourish. The prophetic pattern of Elohim's plan of redemption has been revealed to show that Jerusalem was established on Mount Moriah and Mount Zion, which is in the center of the Garden of Eden. The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil in Eden's garden fit the prophetic patterns of Yahweh. We are able to identify the tree species from their descriptions in Elohim's word. Their descriptions add to our understanding of Yahweh's larger prophetic picture and how he has fulfilled every detail of his plan of salvation for humanity, which is found in his son Adonai. Eden was Adam's home during the dispensation of innocence we covered 2 weeks ago. Adam's primary knowledge of Elohim is that it was he who loved him and provided for him. The tree of life and the tree of knowledge grew in the middle of the Eden's garden and were located in the garden's center. The site of Jerusalem has been deemed the center of the Garden of Eden. Many Bible scholars agree that the location of Eden's garden was established in Jerusalem. This is of huge prophetic significance because Jerusalem is the center of Yahweh's plan of redemption. Remarkably, the specific location of each of the trees fits a detailed and precise prophetic pattern. Even the particular species of each tree has prophetic significance centering on Yahweh's salvation. When the Israelites entered Canaan, their promised ancestral land, which we know is the land of Israel, Yahweh specifically revealed there were 7 varieties of plants of agricultural importance. Deuteronomy 8:7 and 8 tells us, Yahweh your Elohim is bringing you into a good land. It is a land with rivers that do not dry up. There are springs and underground streams flowing through the valleys and hills. The land has wheat and barley, grapevines, fig trees, and pomegranates. The land has dates, which are palm tree dates, and olive trees for olive oil. These 7 plants are referred to as the 7 species. Among the 7 species, there are 4 fruit-bearing trees: the pomegranate tree, the fig tree, the olive tree, and the palm date tree. It is interesting to note that only one of these trees, the fig tree, is specifically identified in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve sewed aprons of fig leaves to cover themselves after they sinned. Genesis 3, 6, and 7 says, "The woman saw that the tree had fruit that was good to eat, nice to look at, and desirable for making someone wise. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Then their eyes were opened, and they both realized that they were naked. They sewed fig leaves together and made clothes for themselves." Genesis 3, 6, and 7 reveals that Elohim's word associates the fig tree with Adam and Eve's sin for eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, after Satan tempted them to rebel against Yahweh. The reference to the fig tree is not merely an incidental reference, but it actually provides Bible researchers and scholars the identity of the tree of knowledge of good and evil as being a fig tree. Rabbinic Torah researchers and scholars have also determined this. According to the Talmud, the forbidden tree was a fig tree. By the very thing Adam and Eve were disgraced, they were also restored. When Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they realized they were naked. Since the fruit they had eaten was apparently from a fig tree, it stands to reason they made aprons out of the fig leaves to hide their sin. If it is true that Jerusalem's site is also the center of the Garden of Eden, then the placement of the rivers that surround Eden are the same that surround Israel, which is based at the center of the earth. There were not only 4 species of trees in the Garden of Eden. Elohim's words only identifies 4, which are mentioned prominently in prophetic scripture. All species of trees were grown in Eden. Sorry about the move away. Technical difficulties were about to start. Alright. We're going to point 1. Genesis 2 reveals there are great prophetic implications, significance for the Garden of Eden by how and where it was planted and Adam's placement there. All of creation had been under humanity's authority. Yahweh declared that it was very good. After Yahweh created Adam out of the dust and chemicals of the earth, he placed Adam in Eden. Genesis 2:8 says, Yahweh planted a Garden of Eden in the east. That's where he put the man whom he had formed. The Garden of Eden was established in the Middle East near Mesopotamia. The way the Hebrew reads, it means planted on the eastern part of Eden. Eden contains Syria, Iran, Iraq, as well as Israel. Elohim planted fruit trees in Eden's garden. There were 7 species of trees in Eden. Of these, there were 4 types of fruit-bearing trees. They were fig, pomegranate, olive, and date trees. The planting of these trees was done directly by Yahweh Elohim. He spoke them into existence just as he formed Adam. Adam and Eve were created to till Eden and govern the universe. The root word for Eden is watering, and seen in Psalm 36. Eden is also called the Garden of Yahweh in Isaiah 51, the Garden of Elohim in Ezekiel 28 and 31, and the Paradise of Elohim in Revelation 2. The word Eden means a place that is well watered. Elohim's word says Lot, Abraham's nephew, saw that the plain of the Jordan was well watered, like the Garden of Yahweh in Genesis 13:10. Genesis 13:10 says, Lot looked in the direction of Zoar as far as he could see. He saw that the whole Jordan plain was well watered, like Yahweh's Garden of Eden, or like Egypt. Like most beautiful things, the Garden of Eden had the potential for good and for evil. Yahweh Elohim created trees to grow out of the ground, trees pleasing to the eye and good for food. Genesis 2:9 says, Yahweh Elohim made all the trees grow out of the ground. The trees were nice to look at, and their fruit was good to eat. The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil grew in the middle of the garden. All species of fruit-bearing trees provided mouth-watering fruit in Eden's garden. Yahweh described two trees not anywhere else, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of life was placed by Yahweh in the center of Eden's garden to promote and preserve life. It was perfect, beautiful, and desirable in every way possible, and it was the source of life itself. If Adam had eaten from this tree, he would not have died in his sins. Adam's sin passed from him to his sons, and from his sons to his descendants. Adam's sin nature passes from father to child. The tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil have survived for over 6 millennia. They are the only trees that have survived Adam's sin and the flood in their original perfect forms. Revelation 2:7 exhorts, to him who overcomes, I will give the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of Elohim. The tree of life from Genesis 2:9 is referred to in Revelation 2. All believers are overcomers. Since all believers are overcomers in their pre-Adamic fall bodies, they will eat from the tree of life. Revelation 22:14 encourages, Blessed are those who wash their robes, that they might have the right to the tree of life, and may go through the city gate, or the gates of the city. Later in Revelation, it is mentioned again. However, another tree was planted close to the tree of life in the middle of the garden, apparently close to each other to provide for testing in the future. The second tree in Genesis 2:9 was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For the first time, we see the possibility of evil. It could produce either good or evil within those who ate of its fruit. That is no longer the case. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is being stored in the current heaven. It cannot produce evil in its current state, because no evil is allowed in Yahweh's heaven. The Hebrew word for knowledge means knowledge from experience. The fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was able to give a person experiential knowledge of good and evil. Merely knowing good and evil did not give power to choose the good or reject the evil. Elohim prophesied that there would ultimately be one result for a person who eats from the fruit: death. This was Eden's tree of life and death. In a mutiny of eternal morals and cowardice, Adam and Eve sinned by eating from the only tree in Eden's garden that they were commanded not to eat from. All Adam and Eve needed to do was obey Elohim's spoken word. When we rebel against our Elohim's word and his will for us, we are left to our own devices. That is a very dangerous place. They ate from the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. What are Satan's three most used weapons in his arsenal? Distraction, deception, and confusion. From these all others flow. When we rebelliously take and eat from the delicacies of the world, and not from Elohim's word, we will find ourselves on the outside of the household of faith looking in jealously for Yahweh. The rabbis taught that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil must in reality be a vine, because no other fruit causes so much misery and distress. It was and is a tree of monumental influence. Out of over 60,000 species of trees in Eden, the two most important trees in Eden were the tree of life, which brought life, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which only brought death. And that goes to point 2. Yahweh Elohim revealed in the dimensions of the land of promise, Israel, when he named the 4 rivers flowing around Eden. Eden is a preview and a type and shadow of the New Jerusalem. There were 4 rivers that flowed around Eden. Eden took up most of the Middle East on Pangaea and the only continent on the earth. They were known as the 4 heads or headwaters. The river of the water of life, also known as El is the river, flowed from the Garden of Eden and separated into 4 heads or 4 rivers. Genesis 2:10 says, a river flowed from Eden to water the garden. Outside the garden divided into 4 rivers. The green vegetation in Eden's garden needed to be irrigated. The water canopy in the atmosphere could not provide enough water to properly irrigate Eden, which had to be fed by its 4 rivers. The land of Eden had a single river entering its garden. This river must have been very large, because it's separating the 4 headwaters or rivers, each having its own name in Genesis 2:10. This is the same river that is seen in Revelation 22. John the Apostle, while in his vision of the New Jerusalem, described a river that was flowing in the middle of the street of the city, which is Jerusalem. Revelation 22 refers to the same river. The angel showed me the river of the water of life, flowing with crystal clear water, clear as crystal, continuously pouring out from the throne of Yahweh and of the Lamb. 4 is the number of universality and interchangeability, such as the 4 winds, the 4 horses of the apocalypse, or the 4 corners of the earth. Eden's rivers refresh and water the whole world. The number 4 is similar to the number 8 in Jewish gematria. It signifies to have completion, to experience wholeness, and to walk in fullness, to be strong, to be a fortress, to win a race. Rivers are frequent metaphors for the Holy Spirit that Yeshua gives us and the life-giving presence of Yahweh. The Hebrew word for the river is nahar, and refers to streams, rivers, and waterways. The root word for river in the Hebrew means to sparkle, to be cheerful, to shine, to be joyful. The river of Yahweh will make his people shine, sparkle, be joyful, and be transcendent with cheer. Genesis 2:11 says, the name of the first river is Pishon. This is the one that winds throughout Havilah, where there is gold. The Hebrew word for Pishon is Pishon, and means to have an overflowing increase, to keep forward, to spread out. Genesis 2 says that the Pishon winds through Havilah, where there is gold. The name of the first is Pishon. The Pishon River has been identified as the Ushun River. This places Havilah to the northeast of Mesopotamia. The local citizens know it as the Golden River. Rising near the stratovolcano Sahan, it winds between ancient gold mines and deposits of lapis lazuli and feeds the Caspian Sea. These natural resources correspond with Havilah in Genesis 2. The Hebrew word for Havilah is Kavilah and refers to a part of Eden through which flowed the Pishon River, which is in the northeast corner of Asia Minor near the Caspian Sea. Havilah has various definitions, meaning to cause to grow, to give birth out of pain, to stretch of sandy land, mud, or twist or whirl in a circular or spiral manner, to grieve, be sorrowful, tremble, or wounded. These meanings point to our human natures. The overflowing increase of Yahweh's river within us reveals the gold hidden in the mud. He digs through our muddy hearts to reveal the golden one. Genesis 2:12 says, "The gold of that land is pure. Bdellium and onyx are also found there." Havilah is found in central Arabia, northeast of Israel. It is known for its very pure gold. Its aromatic resin and crystal in Genesis 2 describes the wealth of Havilah and water, gold, and precious stones. The word for gold is zahab and means a precious metal used as a measure of weight, purity of brilliance, beautiful in its splendor, that which is perfected in the hearth process. Excuse me. The last point. Genesis 2:13-14 reveal the remaining 3 rivers that surrounded the land of Eden, their placement, and their prophetic significance of the last days, for the last days. One of the 4 rivers of Eden, as seen in Genesis 2:13, is said to encompass the whole land of Cush, known as Ethiopia, which is a province east of the Tigris River in modern-day Iran. Genesis 2:13 says the name of the second city is Gihon. This is the one that winds throughout Sudan. The name of the second river is the Gihon. It winds around the entire land of Cush. The land of Cush is often connected with Ethiopia. Ethiopia is connected with the biblical Sudan of Genesis. Biblical Ethiopia is Sudan. It is located in the Horn of Africa, at the furthermost Middle Eastern coast. Ethiopia is a country in East Africa in the northern and eastern hemispheres of the earth. While not much is said about the geographic area of Cush, it is named after Ham's son Cush. Cush, or Sudan, is one of the locations Yahweh Elohim's people for Yahweh Elohim's people to travel, which is seen in Isaiah 11. Isaiah 11:11 reveals, Adonai will use his power again to recover what remains of his people in Assyria, Upper and Lower Egypt, Sudan, Elam, and Babylonia, Hamath, and the islands of the sea. Ham settled in the area currently known as Sudan, which is also called Ethiopia. His son Cush settled in eastern Africa, just south of the land of Ham, also known as the land of Egypt. Sudan, Ethiopia, and Cush are different names for the same territory. It does not necessarily refer to a particular city or location, but rather to the name of the place derived from the 4 headwaters. 4 headwaters gave rise to 4 rivers. The Gihon River runs directly under Mount Moriah, which is one of the 2 main mountains supporting Jerusalem. Gihon flows under Jerusalem. The Gihon River flows from Jerusalem through northeastern Africa and around the Sudan. Current Ethiopia is Sudan. The Ethiopian queen and the Ethiopian eunuch visited Jerusalem. The Queen of Sheba is seen visiting Solomon in 1 Kings 10. She traveled over 1,400 miles to hear King Solomon's wisdom. She wanted to know if the stories about his wisdom were true. She brought lavish gifts from Cush, or Ethiopia, for King Solomon, and then tested him with asking him hard questions. Satisfied with his answers, they exchanged gifts with one another, and she left. Genesis 2:14 says the name of the 3rd river is Tigris. This is the one that flows east of Assyria. The 4th river is the Euphrates. The name of the 3rd river is Tigris. It runs along the east side of Assyria, Iraq, and Iran, and what is known today as northern Iraq. The Tigris still exists in the Middle East and is a powerful river. The Hebrew word for Tigris is Kidalkel, and is defined as rapid flowing, like a swift arrow in flight. One of the rivers of Eden, which course east toward Assyria or Iraq, better known as the Tigris. The name of the fourth river is Euphrates. It is located in ancient Babylonia or modern Iraq. The Tigris and the Euphrates rivers mark the northern and southern borders of the Eden. Euphrates is the largest and by far the most important of the rivers of Western Asia. It arises from two chief sources in the Armenian mountains and flows into the Persian Gulf. The Hebrew word for Euphrates is parath and means fruitfulness, to break forth, an endless rushing. Excuse me. The good and abounding river, the river and the great river. Excuse me all. Yahweh Elohim made all the trees grow out of the ground. These trees were perfect. Philip said, man's first home was a garden, his final home would be a city. When Adam first opened his eyes to the light of day, he looked out upon a scene of matchless beauty and tranquility. The fields were emerald green, the hedgerows ablaze with blossoms, the atmosphere laden with the fragrance of flowers, the forests ringing with joyous song. Strolling through his vast estates, Adam could pause to see a wolf-plagued tag with a lamb, could stop to romp with a jungle lion, or to inhale the perfume of the most beautiful rose that ever gladdened the eyes of man. He could pause to pick a plum, to prop a verdant vine, to plant a peach tree, to gaze with awe and wonder at the tree of life. The late theologian and teacher Watchman Nee made an interesting observation in Genesis 2:8-14. He said, Adam was created innocent. He had no knowledge of good and evil. Without his knowledge, Adam could not decide for himself on moral issues. Judgment of right or wrong resides not in him, but in Yahweh. And Adam's only course when faced with any question is to refer to Yahweh. Thus you have a life in the garden which is totally dependent on Yahweh. In conclusion, Elohim's presence resided in Eden. He planted this garden. He walked in Eden's garden in the cool of the day. Yahweh's transcendent presence permeated his perfect garden and perfect universe. Yahweh's protection and provisions were seen in the Garden of Eden in this passage. The Hebrew word for garden is gan and means an enclosure or garden, and to surround, to cover, and to defend. Yahweh created a beautiful and wondrous garden setting for his first created pair, Adam and Eve. They were enclosed within it, protected from the outside world. They were safe and living at peace. Yahweh provided food, vegetables and fruit, and water in abundance for his human creation. Yahweh planted the garden and gave Adam and Eve the privilege of living in it and caring for it. The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Yahweh did not create an automaton that had to obey him, but a human who was able to choose him. The tree of life is Elohim himself. Elohim is life. He is the highest form of life. He is also the source and goal of life. Adonai Yeshua, the Messiah, is Eden's fruit of all the trees of Eden's garden. A river, the river of El, or Ale is the river, flowed from Eden to irrigate his garden. This river separated the four rivers. The name of the first was the Pishon River, which flowed through Havilah. The name of the second river was the Gihon River, which wound around and through Ethiopia or Sudan. The Gihon River flows from the Middle East and under Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. The name of the third river was the Tigris River, which runs along the east side of Assyria. It is our modern-day Iran and Iraq. The Tigris River is a fast-flowing and powerful river. The name of the fourth river was the Euphrates River, which is the largest, longest, and most important of the rivers that flow out of the Middle East. It flows into the Persian Gulf. When we combine the names of Genesis 2 to 10 through 14, four rivers, they read, the river of Ale will bring an overflowing increase, gush like a geyser, to swiftly bring Yahweh's people to success and fruitfulness. In benediction, Revelation 20:12 through 14. Behold, I am coming quickly. I will bring my reward with me to repay everyone according to their works. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the completion. Wonderfully blessed are those who wash their robes white so they can access the tree of life and enter the city of bliss by its open gates. Yahweh has blessed you and will protect you. Yahweh has smiled on you and has been gracious to you. Yahweh has shown you his favor and will give you his shalom, perfect and complete peace. Amen.